Hello everyone. We're going to be doing just a quick tutorial on using Mirrorboard to lay out our work for the CAA exhibition that is required. So just a quick overview. We are going to be using the Mirrorboard platform to do the exhibition, the online exhibition of all the CSA schoolwork, right? Mirrorboard is a platform that runs in a browser, or it can run on tablets or phones. For this example, we're going to be using the browser version, the PC version, and I'm actually running it from the Mirrorboard app, which you can download via this link here. Now, this presentation that I'm running is actually a Mirrorboard itself, and these slides are available within this Mirrorboard, and it will be made accessible so you can access it at any time. Okay, so there are three main items that we're going to include on the Mirrorboard, right? And this is laid out in the document that was provided by the CAA, right? So these 3 points that I've highlighted here, C 3.1 and 3.2, those have to do with showing works from Design Studio modules, and C 3.3 are the other CSA modules, right? So these are the main ticket items that we're going to be showing on the Mirrorboard, and I'm going to give you a quick tutorial of how you can upload your school, your student work to these boards. Okay, so the main concept of how this is going to work is going to be based off the current, I would call it the diet layout of all the modules, and you might recognize this layout from the diet sheet that is available on the CSA website. So this has a layout of all the modules that take place, and as you can see here, we have the different subject areas such as Design Studio, History, Technology, and Computing, and so forth. And then we have the different levels, so year 1, year 2, all the way up to year 6, which is the master's level, right? So this gives us a quick way to kind of track all the modules offerings by the CSA. Now, what we're doing is, in order to show the exhibition, we're going to be using this template, this method of layout from the diet, and we're going to be exporting those to individual mirror boards. So as you can see here, all of the Design Studio modules, student work, are going to be shown on a particular mirror board. And same for History and Theory and the rest of them. So this diagram in a nutshell just kind of illustrate the concept of how this will work. Now, these mirror boards are all accessible via the work submission portal, which most of us are probably familiar with already, and that can be accessed by going to the website csa-utechjamaica.org, right? Now, when you go to the website, it's a simple 3-step process to access all of the boards that you just saw. So the first step is to go to the work submission portal, and if we go to this link here, we will see the website, which we are familiar with. So we're going to head over to the staff section, and you will be prompted to log in. As soon as you log in, providing you have access to this page, this is what you will see. So you will see the module layout, and most of us will recognize this as where we go to view school work from the students for each module. Now, the key thing to do here is that we need to scroll down And as we scroll down, we can see the different boards, right? So for example, we'll see the design studio boards and the history and theory, the technology modules, computing, and so forth, right? So as you scroll down, you will see these different viewports, right? And that's what these are. These are simply viewports that allow us to view and edit the boards that will house the exhibition for the CAA. So let me scroll back to the top, and for example, if I wanted to view the design studio board, I would just go to see this board, and it will actually load right here in the website within this viewport, right? So you can see that the board is loading up now, and the speed at which the board loads depends on your internet speed, right? So you can see that I'm actually still on the website and I'm able to view this board within this space. Now within this space I can pan around and zoom. Using the mouse wheel, I can zoom, and holding the middle mouse button will allow me to pan. And what you're looking at is a kind of a bird's eye view of all the modules. Now this window might be a bit small, so what I recommend, especially for those of us that are editing the board, is to either view this on the app or go into full screen mode. Now right before I go into full screen, notice I get in a message here that says your browser zoom level is not set to 100%, and that is true. Some of us might know, you can zoom in and out of your browser, whatever browser you're using, whether it's Chrome or Microsoft Edge. So Mirrorboard is just giving you a disclaimer that hey, it's best to zoom your browser to 100%. Anyway, the way that's recommended to view the board, and I'm going to just hit refresh on the browser, so this will just refresh back this page, and I'm going to scroll down again, and once the page is loaded up, I can go to see this board, but this time I'm not going to go here. I'm going to click this icon here, which will open up a new window to let me go full screen. Now once it's in, it's loading up, it's going to ask you, hey, do you want to use the Mirrorboard application, right? Or do you want to continue to use Mirrorboard within Chrome browser, right? So for this purpose, I'm just going to continue using it in Chrome browser. You don't have to download the application if you don't want. And personally, I don't see any major advantage to downloading the application, apart from you get a little bit more screen real estate, because you don't have to deal with these tabs from Chrome and the address bar. So I'm going to hit cancel because I don't want to open it in an application. Okay, so this is So this that I'm looking at is currently the history and theory subject area modules, and I'm able to zoom right down to the level that I'm able to view these individual handies and maybe posters and student presentations. Now, before I explain this, let's just jump back to the presentation real quick. Okay, so that was just a quick view of how to access the boards, right? Now, the idea for how the boards would be laid out, based on what is required by the CAA, is that we're going to have two student samples with high passing grades, 2 with medium, and 3 samples with low passing grade. The keyword here is passing, so it's not a fail grade but a passing grade that must be used. And these samples needs to be for every studio assignment, right? And in the case of the other CSA modules, every assessment. Okay. Now, additionally, there is also required a portfolio for Design Studio. And the concept for how we're going to lay that out is that we're going to have a single high passing sample for a portfolio, a medium and a low, right? And this must be for each semester, but only for the Design Studio subject area. So this gives an idea of the table that you saw earlier and how we're going to lay out the information. So you're going to see a table here, and each row represents an assessment. So for example, in Design Studio, assessment 1 may be project A and assessment 2 may be project B, as an example. For assessment 1, we're going to show 2 samples of the top student work for assessment 1. So henceforth, we also need to place the assessment handout in this location here, right? And this handout will serve for this entire row that is shown here. Now, each sample will have the student name. So for example, we're going to have that will be a student here, this will be another student, and these 2 students will be the top students for this assessment. And then we're going to do the same thing here and here, right? Now, this structure that is used here is flexible. So for example, depending on the amount of work that you might have for a particular assessment, maybe this the height of this row might not be enough. So in that case, we need to increase the height or decrease the height of this row. We can also adjust the width here, and notice when I adjust it, it's actually taking the information with it and it's keeping everything intact. Now this setup is very similar to using Excel, where we can easily adjust the size of the columns, and if you hover at the bottom, you will see where you can actually create a new row like that, and we can move these around. So the idea is that the samples that this represent the student samples, you can easily move them around into different cells, and you can notice I am left clicking and dragging now, and it highlights where the cells that they will fall in. Once it is in that cell, you can actually move this around and the information will remain in that cell, right? So this is the kind of system that we will use to show the students' work. And as you can see, it's a little bit flexible, so some of us might have, for example, an assessment that is broken down into maybe 4 parts, so hence you will have more student samples, so hence you might need to increase or decrease your row size or your column width, depending, right? Okay, now if we take a look over here, each one of these blocks here will look like this breakdown that we have here, right? And what we have here are some placeholders, and these placeholders give an idea of the ratio and size, I would say comparative size of the works that we're going to give for students, that we're going to upload to the board for the students, right? So for example, you will see that we have a size for RHD sheets, which is a typical printed size for architectural, maybe plans, elevations, and so forth. We have a typical tabloid size, and we have a letter size. Each one of these has these little headings, and if I click on anything here, you will notice that you get these little handles here, which indicates that this entire box is in a group, right? So I can actually move these around, or I can even change the size. I can double click on any item in here to go inside this group, and now I'm able to move this around and I'm able to edit the text that is right here by simply double clicking it and editing it. So for example, I can put the student's name up here by just double clicking and modifying this text. When I'm done, I just click outside once and the group is still maintained. Now, most of us will have our own layout for our group. So for example, this is just a guide. So we might have a particular student work that might be only letter size. So in that case, I would actually ungroup this by clicking this icon here. And I would just delete these other items here and only leave the letter size items that's right here, right? So this little dash box here gives you an idea of the size of the letter size in comparison to the rest of the board. Because as you realize, when you zoom out, you're going to be seeing a lot more information, and we want to keep all the sizes standardized. Okay, now we're going to look at how we get information into the Mirrorboard in just a bit, right? But just to let you know that when you put in your information, the idea is that you will delete this reference guide because it has served this purpose to help you to resize the information that you drag onto the board. All right. Now, if you want to regroup after you have rearranged how your student sample is laid out, maybe you'll have individual letter size documents here. I can duplicate this by simply clicking on this, and I'm going to hit the duplicate button. All right, so maybe this is a student work, you know, this just represents what it would be. Now, if I wanted to group this back, I could just select everything here and just click this group button right here, and now it's a group again that I can move around. So just as a reminder, all this information is going to be within this cell, and that's what is being represented here by these square boxes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the information that is to be housed on the Mirrorboard. The main idea or the main advantage of using Mirrorboard is that it can receive multiple types of information and represent them visually. The key word here is visually. And if you think about it, you can have files stored, for example, in your Google Drive. For example, what we're seeing here, these are files that are stored in a Google Drive. Now, these files are represented by icons, and in order to visually view the information that is represented by these icons, we have to actually, for example, double click this icon here, and then the information will come up on screen like a slide presentation, right? Now, what Mirrorboard does is that it will visually represent the actual data and not necessarily represent an icon which represents the data. So the main advantage of placing the student work on Mirrorboard is that when you view the Mirrorboard directly, you're viewing the actual content visually without having to open that content into a separate application, right? And that's perhaps one of the most advantageous things. So what we're seeing here is that Mirrorboard will represent the information you see here visually. Meaning, if you drag a JPEG image onto Mirrorboard, it will show the actual JPEG image. Same for YouTube videos, Google Slides, PowerPoint, or Google Docs. It will show the actual document there on the Mirrorboard instead of having to open it in a different application. So the advantage of this is that the Mirrorboard, it gives you the ability to quickly cross compare and cross analyze between information. So for example, this is the presentation that I'm doing now, and I'm able to quickly browse around and view content directly without having to open a secondary information, right? So that is essentially the advantage of using Mirrorboard.